biblical. In fact, if you look at the amount of scriptures in the Bible that are based on finance and fiscal responsibility versus those that are based on salvation, both versus those that are based on forgiveness, there's over 2,000 verses in the Bible that speak specifically to money, wealth, prosperity, financial responsibility, stewardship, and I think there's only 700 or so that deals with salvation. There's only a few hundred more than that deals with faith. So if you understand that, especially from the pulpit standpoint and the preacher standpoint, yes, you have to get people saved if you're a Christian and help them understand what salvation is. But after they're saved, you have to prepare them to walk on this earth for another, 40, 50, 60 years, depending on how old they were when they got saved. You have to prepare them to still be in this world, although they are not to be of this world. And I don't think a lot of pastors are ready to have that conversation. It's either they are on the far right or the far left. Either they are prosperity, money hungry, or they are the meek shall inherit the earth, meaning that I have to be poor my whole life and just wait till I get to heaven, where there's a lot of middle ground there to teach sound biblical principles. And you think about some of the matriarchs of the actual faith, they were very wealthy.
You're right. I mean, that's where teaching and knowledge and understanding comes into play rather than just, emotion and feelings. So you have to have more of that information. So I think as you share that, though, man, that's going to resonate with people because, I'm looking at your followers, man. You got a bunch of people behind you and you've been doing this thing for a while. And so, again, man, thank you for your time because you're a busy man. Now, what you just mentioned about the church and the teaching and stuff, I think that further adds to the confusion, though, that causes, you a little bit of resistance when you come out with something, a different idea because we're very religious as African-American people, man. We're very, we go to church a lot. So you hear that particular message and you say it's not coming from coming from my pastor. So my pastor ain't saying this. That's not really true, right? It can't be true. So then you come with this information. Well, no, because they don't see you as a valid source, of information. But I watched you on the interview on a video earlier though. You was talking about why wouldn't you listen to people that's already doing, what they want to do. You've already established what you're doing. Even if they don't like the information, I think sometimes, man, people have to give those that's willing to share the respect enough to even just listen. I mean, you can take it and flush it down the toilet when you get through, man, but can you just listen, to the information for a few minutes? I think sometimes that's where the crooks come in. And what you said earlier, though, where the patience also is valuable because you can just say, well, forget you then. You don't want to know nothing and just walk off.
Right. And I think what people really are afraid of, man, when it comes to financial education is that people fear change. And the reason people don't want to listen is because they are afraid that something is going to buck their entire paradigm and cause them to have to shift and change. So they don't want to even hear anything that could potentially rock the boat, so to speak. So that's one of the reasons that they don't want to listen. Because one thing about the brain is the brain can never unlearn something, right? The brain never forgets anything. So if they hear a principle or strategy that contradicts their lifestyle and their teaching, the brain will never forget that. And it will, matter of fact, continue to manifest itself in that person's life when they're introduced until they can shut it down. And because of that, people are kind of just would rather not hear anything at all. But you're right, pastors and churches have a lot of influence, and sometimes if they're not using that influence to give their congregation and their followers permission to seek knowledge, then that becomes an issue with a lot of people in the church. And believe it or not, instead of those people either addressing that with their pastors, their church leadership, they will sit in the church congregation for years, bitter as all get out because of their negative financial situations, because of their negative relationship situations, and they're not being addressed from the pulpit, but at the same time, they don't feel empowered enough to go outside of the church to seek solid counsel to help them in those areas. So they will kind of just sit in the church and be bitter with with their pastors and not seek the help that they need. And a prime example of that is T.D. Jakes' daughter. She's now a well-known pastor, and she's preaching the gospel, but she talked about being in the church pew in so much pain and hurting, but at the same time with a fake smile on her face and telling everybody everything was okay. But what she was going through was never addressed from the pulpit, and that caused her a lot of bitterness, and she sat in those pews for years until eventually she had to break free and just say, hey, everything ain't all right, and we are in the church is the one place that we should be able to come to and say everything ain't all right, so we can lean on our Christian brothers and sisters and get help versus having to pretend everything is all right so that our Christian brothers and sisters won't judge us.
That's the thing, though. We do not like asking for help. You know, when you know we think about it. When you go out, they look at you. What's up, boss? What's up, man? You know, you want to feel and look like you got it going on. When they call you boss, you feel some kind of way, right? You know, you may have $2 in your pocket, but he called me boss. I feel like a boss. Right. So boss don't ask for help. You know, G's don't ask for help. You know, beautiful ladies they don't need help. So we have that issue to where we don't want to come to anybody, but as you said, because we don't want to be judged by the individual. But I think that's sometimes where the church the people sometime in it are in error, because instead of giving love or giving information or just giving a listening ear, they give judgment, you know, and so that does shut people down because they don't. I think, man, this is what I say all the time. We have to have a class or sessions on coping mechanisms, coping skills. We hide a lot of stuff. We internalize a lot of stuff. And then we just become bitter and broken and just health all messed up, hair all falling out. I mean, just everything's all jacked up because, as you say, simply we just can't say, hey, I need help. Hey, I don't know how to do this. Hey, I need some help with this. But I think sometimes, man, because we don't trust enough, right? It's kind of hard to ask for that help, right? Because, okay, I'm in the church and I'm assuming that Sister So-and-so not going to tell my business, but now I've told her some issues. Now everybody know about
it. Exactly. That is 100% true and accurate. And because of the fear of potential judgment, we don't seek the help that we need, man. And that's, and that's part of the problem, man. I say we spend a lot of money trying to look like we have money, and if we just stop doing that, we'd free up the money to actually fix our money problems, right? But instead of fixing our problems, instead of fixing our problems, we focus a lot of our attention and we spend a lot of money to hide our problems, right? We're drowning in debt, but instead of getting ourselves out of debt, we'll go buy a nice pair of shoes or a nice handbag to look like we have money when we're drowning in debt. So that's one of those things that we have to shift and help people understand some fundamental strategies that can actually change that situation around.
I can dig it. Now let's get into the strategies, man. Let's get into some of these things, man, because now we spoke on the issues, we spoke on the problems, we spoke on what people don't like to do, and then how do we get through that? How does your company get through that and pass through those barriers in order to really affect the community? Because I'm excited, man, just to hear about all these things you're doing.
Sure. First, you have to understand the core or the root cause of a problem, right?
Yes, sir.
Most black people are struggling and living paycheck to paycheck, and not just most black people, most Americans, right? 3 out of 4 Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. And one of the 4 reasons that they're living paycheck to paycheck is inflation. The value of the dollar is constantly going down. The cost of living, that basically means the cost of living is going up, but your raise on your job is not keeping up.
Nope.
So if you don't have a mechanism in place that will help you deal with inflation, you're going to fall farther and farther behind year after year after year. So if you don't have an answer for inflation, that's one of the problems. Another problem is taxes. Most people don't realize that taxes is their biggest expense. Most people will think instantly that, oh, my mortgage is, I pay $1,000 a month. Or my car note is, I pay $500 a month. But when you think about it, your taxes will eat up 1/3 of your pay, and that's just income tax alone. Then you add Social Security, you add FICA, you add school tax, gas tax, city tax, local tax, sales tax. Working class people are taxed about 50% of their income. It's just hidden in small increments that they don't realize that's what's happening to them. So if you don't have an answer for taxes, you're going to fall further and further behind. And what's amazing is that these negatives continue to compound. So because of inflation and because of taxes, I will then go find myself financing my lifestyle and getting into a whole bunch of debt because of inflation, and I'm overtaxed. So the third challenge we must overcome is debt. I mean, we know we finance a house, we finance a car, we finance the electronics, the cell phones. Some people even finance their groceries, putting those on credit cards and paying that off little by little, right? Because that's how bad a shape we are in because of taxes and inflation. And then finally, once taxes, inflation, and debt eat you up, then comes the last of the four beasts, so to speak, and that's big business, right? We've been taught to be mass consumers, so our expenses are out of whack. And if you don't have an answer for all four of those things, then you will fall further and further behind financially, and that's why there is no more middle class. You have the working poor, and you have the extremely poor, and then you have the wealthy 5% that are doing okay. So you're right. We do offer some fundamental solutions on how to overcome these challenges. And if you like, I can get into those now if you want.
Yes, sir, man. Might as well dive into it, man. We had a buffet, man. So just grab whatever you want and put it on a plate. You know, you don't want biscuits, we got rolls. You don't want rolls, we got cornbread.
I got you, man. I got you. Good deal. So basically what we do then is in America, we are just not educated financially. And when I say that, most people think, if I ask 9 out of 10 people what the number one language in America is, they'll say, "What are you idiot? It's just English." Well, that's not actually true. That is the spoken language, but the number one language of America is capitalism. And if you don't understand capitalism and how to speak the language of capitalism, you will permanently be an underclass. And that's where black people find themselves today, and a lot of poor white people and poor Hispanics and other cultures that don't understand capitalism. So the first thing that we teach as part of the Black Wealth Movement is to understand the power of entrepreneurship. How does entrepreneurship affect taxes? Well, if you join the Black Wealth Movement, that will put you in your own home-based business. That means you get to access the tax code in the same way that Walmart, Microsoft, Google, Kmart, all these Fortune 500 companies use the tax code to build wealth. Well, guess what? A small home-based business allows you to access the tax code in the exact same way. Everything that I do is a tax write-off in some way, either fully or partially. That means if I drive my car, I have a magnet on the side of my car that promotes my business, so those miles are tax deductible. If I sit down with a meal, I never sit down with a meal without giving a waitress or waiter my business card, so that meal becomes a promotion opportunity, so that meal is tax deductible. Everything that I buy, pretty much, I'm going to use in my business in some capacity. My internet service, my cell phone, this is a business interview, so my cell phone bill is partially tax deductible. So when you start adding all of that stuff up, now you get to save money that otherwise would be going to Uncle Sam. Then what we do is when you look at the ability to save a few $1,000s that would otherwise be going to taxes, what do we instruct you to do with that? You take the money that was going to Uncle Sam. Once it comes back into your household, you use that to get yourself out of debt. Most working class people are overpaying taxes by $200 to $600 per month. I've got a couple that I counsel. The wife was overpaying her taxes on her job, $700 a month. The husband was overpaying taxes on his job, $300 a month. So collectively, $1,000 a month was bleeding out of their household each and every month, and they were struggling financially. We fixed that problem, brought that $1,000 back into their household, and then they were able to use that to pay off some debts. They was able to use it to start investing, creating emergency funds. those are the strategies